First of all, let me just say, y'all can't tell me nothing because I done went and got official a little bit and got me a little microphone. Y'all see this? Can't tell me I ain't no podcaster. I'm not a podcaster at all. I can't even get the word out. Look at that. Um, I jumped on though because I said earlier that I had a story about tithing that I wanted to share, and I was probably going to record it. So here I am recording it. It seems timely because one, the story that I shared last week about tithing is gaining a little more traction this week because my church shared it. Um, and then just today, a video started going viral in Marvin Winans' church. I guess it's the church that he's the pastor over or bishop over. I don't know. Or maybe he was just a guest speaker there. Don't know the context. But the video is apparently him calling people forth to give a $2,000 donation or a tithe. People have worded it differently. Again, I don't know the context. But either way, the call was for $2,000. And a lady comes up there with 1,200. And he's like, this ain't what I asked for. She's like, well, I'll work on the other 800. And he wasn't having it. And she's up there with her son. There's something to be said about the performance of all that, because the fact that she's up there and she's announcing her gift and everything only to be shot down in front of the entire congregation, that's already embarrassing as it is. But it just reminded me of the video that went viral earlier. Was it earlier this year? Of Marvin Sapp and him telling folks to like lock the doors, like, ain't nobody leaving without giving. That was the implication. That's the narrative that people ran with. Again, wasn't there to know the full context, but all of those things brought up a memory for me about tithing. And I recall I was all of 16, maybe 17 at the time. And I had my first job working down to the casual male, big and tall. And, I had my little job that was working maybe 3-4 hours a day after school. Like my usual hours were like from 5:30 to 8:30. That's what my manager, hey Vonda, would put on the schedule. And then, I would work, more hours on the weekends if I was available on the weekends. All that to say, this is back in 99, 2000. And I think I was getting maybe $7 an hour. So, the check ain't but so much. But, grew up in church and was familiar with tithing and knew that, you give 10% of what you're blessed with. So, hey, I'm getting this check. Let me give my little 10%. And, this back in the day before direct deposit was really a thing. So, this one you had to go and like cash your check. So I would take my little check down to the credit union where my mom and my grandmother were members. So that's where my bank was too. And like I said, ain't making but so much, ain't working but so many hours per week. So my little check at the end of the week probably would be like, $60, $70 on average. And me and my literal 16-year-old brain would go to cash my check, but I will always have the teller cut me a different check out of that amount. So say for instance, my check was, $68 that week. Okay, well cut me a little check for $6.80. So I could pay my tithes. And I would put that in my little church's envelope during Sunday service and, paying my tithes, being obedient, just doing what I was told as a kid. And there came a Sunday where the pastor, and I ain't giving no name because this is someone who I still have tremendous respect for. And this ain't about that. This ain't about putting nobody on blast or bashing no church or nothing like that. I'm just sharing my story. But yeah, one Sunday the pastor was preaching, and I don't think the sermon was necessarily about tithing, but somehow we got on the subject of tithing. And the pastor was saying, just basically, God, I can't even remember verbatim because this is now, 25 years ago. But basically was like, round that check up. he made the comment of, you're gonna give a check for $5.32. People were cracking up. I mean, I think I even chuckled because it was funny. But then I thought about it, I was like, oh. And I started feeling like dumb. So when it came time to cash my next check from work and do my little tithe check, I didn't bother because I felt like it was pointless. I felt like it wasn't worth nothing. Why am I going to give my little check for $4 and some odd cents or $7 and some odd cents? And, at 16 years old, I didn't have the concept. I wasn't really taught the concept of giving. So I wasn't thinking of rounding it up to like $10 or $20. And even if I did have that concept, I wasn't mature enough to be like, well, I'm about to give a third of my check away before I even get it. I wasn't thinking along those terms. So the point being, that comment being made from the pulpit, I felt so ashamed that I just stopped. That broke the habit right then and there. And I'm not blaming that moment for the continuation of not tithing well into adulthood. I've had my periods where I'm consistent with it, and I've had my periods where I'm not. But seeing that video today of that woman bringing up her offering and hoping for a blessing because she's bringing up her offering, and to be shot down like that in front of the congregation. And when I watched it, it's not that Marvin Winans was being nasty about it, but it still was kind of like, if I was in that position, I would feel a little stupid for having gone up there, especially for that amount of money. In this economy, $1,200, and then her baby is watching this. That boy couldn't have been, from what I can recall seeing, he didn't look that old. I'll be generous and say he's 12, maybe 10. So I can only imagine the impression that leaves. But, then you'll have folks who, the other dilemma within that is if you were to speak out against things like that, then you have folks who bend over backwards to defend stuff like that. Or not even to defend stuff like that, but to discredit what you're saying, to gaslight you. Similar to that video that went viral of when that pastor made that young girl who had gotten pregnant, 16 years old, come up and confess her sin in front of the church, which I know is customary in some churches, and I still think it's insane. And there's a dude who I once considered a mentor, and we were friends on Facebook, and he was doubling, tripling, quadrupling down in defense of that concept. And it got to the point where the stuff he was saying, not even to me, but now he's feeling himself. So I'm seeing him post different things on Facebook, thinking that he got time today to argue with anybody, and I just had to block him because I was like, now it's just getting corny. But the point that I'm making is that folks will bend over backwards to practically defend abuse in church. So you don't even have a leg to stand on, or you feel like you don't have a voice to say in the matter when your feelings have been hurt. There's even sermons about where you choose to be offended, and that may hold some truth to a certain extent, but that doesn't absolve the responsibility of being, tactful, the responsibility of being mindful of your tone and how you speak to people. My grandfather said something to me, and I've shared this online 101 times. If you read it, bear with me. But it's something that I live by to this day. I want to say he told me this when I was like in college. Maybe I was in my early 20s. But hey, Pop, he said, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about, but you can't just say whatever you want to say. So I've always taken that to mean you have to be mindful of your words, because words mean things. You have to be mindful of your tone when speaking to people. So we've kind of gotten off the subject a little bit of, the tithe of it all and the offering of it all and the giving of it all. I just hate to see videos like that within the faith space where people's, hopes or their faith is kind of like stepped on a little bit or even trampled in some cases. And it's almost like, you dare not speak up against it because now you got to think about all of the religious sycophants who are going to jump to that pastor's defense. Because in their own sad little lives, proximity to the pastor equals power for them, where they may have felt powerless in all the other areas of their life. Church is the one place they get validation, so they fiercely defend the foolishness in order to feel like they're in favor with the church leadership. I've seen it time and time and time again. The way some things are justified and explained away. And it's just like, that still don't make it right. That does not make it okay. I don't give a damn what the title is in church. So that's all I had to say about that. I'm going to go and eat my chicken teriyaki now. I'm excited that I don't have no homework to do tonight. And y'all take care of each other, man. Continue to love each other. Peace out.